Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Jen?
I'm really good. It's rainy. Are you up
Well,
in Brainerd?
I am. Yeah, it's just really beautiful up here today, too.
It in a sarcastic way?
It's very done.
Yeah, fair. I suppose we need the water,
Well,
So,
yeah,
so I can see standing water on my sidewalk out here. Like it's rained so much that the earth can't absorb it. It's gonna take a little while, but
we need some of that slow, just soaking rain for a day or two.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So how are things going for you up north?
I'm doing well. How about for you? I see you moved in and are doing some consulting now and looking good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've flipped my model so that I'm supporting entrepreneurs through what I call the North Star Accelerator program.
I love it.
So it's cheaper for them and more of a concentrated stream of work for me so that I also have more brain space for writing and speaking about this industry, which I love. So, all right, we got another person here. Let's see. Yeah, the response to the accelerator has just been fantastic. I've been really excited about it. Hello, Justina. Welcome.
Good morning.
I don't think we've met before. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
We met very briefly at an event a couple weeks ago, but I work in venture capital. So I'm here to learn a little bit more about the investment side of things because we're looking at a THC company right now. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I so appreciate you dialing in. Yeah. So what would you like to learn more about?
Yeah, I guess right now, so we're approaching like due diligence for this one company, but obviously so many things are changing so rapidly along just like the industry as a whole. So I guess we're very curious on like where you see things going specifically in Minnesota, but as like a countrywide thing as well for small businesses and how they're going to be navigating that. So I know it's very broad, but
also near and dear to my heart. That's a great, meaty question. Yeah.
You're a perfect person to ask.
Well, I so appreciate you dialing in. Yeah. Shall we talk about that? I've never done one of these Ask Me Anything before, so I don't know if people will be popping in and out or whatever, but Luke, that sound good? We'll talk about that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, terrific. So will that work, right? Will we be able to stand up small businesses in this highly regulated industry that we are creating, boom, all of a sudden this summer together? My hope is yes. That's partly why I have built this North Star Accelerator program to help people who are part of the program be able to get quality regulatory and licensing advice at a much lower price point than if they were working with me one-on-one, as well as get like qualified resources and referrals to other places. And then importantly, be able to work with each other, right? Because I'm one piece of this puzzle, but I am only a little piece. And in fact, there's so much expertise out there from the states that have legalized before us and from the community that we are building together to be able to lift each other up. And so my hope is that will help Minnesota's small entrepreneurs be able to navigate these uncertain waters and actually stand up successful and compliant businesses. I'd love to hear your feedback about that as a person who is looking for where to invest capital. Like, what do you look for, Justina, or what kind of concerns do you have as you vet a company?
Yeah, I think for us, specifically looking in the CPG space, so people who are trying to sell online or even in storefronts, just because things are changing so rapidly, it's how does the state to state sales go? I know, like, especially with Texas right now, and they're trying to repeal things, it's a little overwhelming for us because we were really excited about this deal, but Texas is one of their biggest customers. So with that going, it's obviously such murky waters. So we're just trying to figure out on more of a federal level too, what are the timelines looking for this? Are things going to start moving backwards? Is it still moving forward? It's obviously so uncertain for everybody, but yeah, from an investor perspective, it's really less about Minnesota because Minnesota is embracing it, like you said, so much better than other states. But if you're a company located here, are you still going to be able to sell everywhere else they're currently operating off of? That's what we're looking into a lot right now.
Yeah, so let me address that. Yeah, so what I just said kind of applies to the adult use space in Minnesota, right? Adult use is such a strange industry that it's state by state. Your product has to be produced in that state, sold in that state. Now, of course, sometimes people don't follow that law, but that's what you're supposed to do, right? Okay, but let's talk about hemp-derived THC, legal under the 2018 Farm Bill, right? That excitingly has allowed what people sometimes call intoxicating hemp products to cross state lines because they're federally legal under the 2018 Farm Bill. And Minnesota has been a leader in protecting that or creating a regulatory framework for those products that makes them safe, tested, labeled, childproof packaging, those kind of guardrails that then have allowed us to export a lot of gummies and drinks around the nation. Yeah. So unfortunately, other states are looking at these products and saying some of them seem to be safe, tested, labeled, but others of them are scary, are sold at gas stations. We're concerned that kids are buying these and we don't know what's in them, right? Because as a consumer, if we eat a gummy, we have no idea what's in the gummy. We need there to be regulatory processes to protect us, right? And so we're seeing states like Texas and California say, you know what? Enough of these products are just crap that we're going to ban them entirely. And I think that's a very bad take, in my opinion. I think Minnesota did a better job. It's harder to regulate something, thoughtfully through a legislative consensus process, come up with standards, but to just shut down an entire industry. I saw some articles about how many jobs are going to be lost in Texas. It's a huge industry. And Texas, in my opinion, has brought this upon themselves because they don't have any other access to cannabis, right? They don't have a good medical program. They have a very restrictive medical program. They haven't been interested in joining the adult use states. And yet they have a lot of people who are interested in using cannabis as a replacement for opiates for pain, as a replacement for. And so we're seeing those consumer behaviors. So where do we stand, Justina? You asked me where we stand. Okay. Texas's ban is on the governor's desk right now. And as I understand it, he has until June 22nd to veto it, or else it will become law. And so I read articles speculating about what he would do. He has been close-lipped, Governor Abbott of Texas. I suppose that we could be really excited that he vetoes it. We'll know that in the next 9 days. Otherwise, yeah, it is basically a ban that will go into effect. And that's a huge market to take offline. We are also seeing efforts by the federal government to try to wrestle with this issue of intoxicating hemp, and including the U.S. Agricultural Committee introduced what would be the 26th Farm Bill and included a ban on intoxicating hemp as well. So closing the loophole, that would be disastrous for this industry. It's also been introduced several times since the 2018 Farm Bill. There are people who really want to ban this thing, and then it's been beaten back in the past efforts. What will happen this time? Who the fuck knows, right? We are in such a weird political moment. So what should investors do? Right, is the question, right? Because you could certainly wait until after June 22nd and see if Texas vetoes. You could certainly wait and see what happens to the 2026 Farm Bill. But I'm going to tell you, other shit's going to happen too, right? This industry, so dynamic, for lack of a better word. Big upside, big downside, very exciting. So I know that that's not what investors love, right? Investors love good projections, certainty, companies they can invest in. As an advisor, I think about my job as signing on to walk this path with a company, right? I'm not sure what the universe is going to throw at us, but I'm going to try to bring expertise and resources and creativity to helping them navigate what gets thrown at them. And I wonder if an investor could take a similar approach, right? Could say, this is a cool industry. I think this company is the one worth walking it with and see what happens. I would love to see more investors take that risk, because the bootstrapping that is happening right now is really very serious and it can't last forever.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yes. Dynamic. What would be a better, Actually, I would love your thoughts about due diligence. What kinds of things do you expect companies to have in place before they ask for investor money?
Yeah, that's definitely helpful from your perspective too, because I do want to hear more about your accelerator. But yeah, for us, having a pitch deck that they usually send in, preliminary pitch deck, just with some details on where they've been. I think specifically for this industry, just an understanding of how their product does comply to different legality things, and just making sure that they've done all the research on their end. We do look for historical financial statements and then usually 3 years of projections. On the financial side, if they have any wholesale relationships or if they're just doing direct to consumer, understanding a breakdown of that. I think that's really important for us right now, especially like what I was telling you with shipping to other states. We just want to understand where their product is located. I'm trying to think of what else we have. Organization chart, who's on their team, who are they working with, understanding where the manufacturer is. That's kind of what we look at first. So after we have a first meeting with them, that's what we usually expect in our inbox within the following few weeks. Not everybody has projections written out already. So, but yeah,
so you don't require that to get the meeting, but
nope.
If you have a good meeting, then that's going to be your next step is
Yes.
go assemble all that.
Yes. Yeah. So to get the meeting, usually just that pitch deck, which I can always send you more details too on what we look for that as you're working with companies. But yeah, usually just a pitch deck comes through our website. We've got like a portal, and I think most of the other funds have a portal that you can usually send a preliminary deck into. And that usually just is very like high level, but you can get a good understanding of what their business is. And then if we like them, we'll usually send them an email to do that first meeting. And that's where the rest of the documents come in. But
okay,
yeah.
So just that pitch deck. Yeah. And what do you expect that pitch deck to cover?
Yeah, so for that, it's really like product market fit. So depending on the company, really, what problem are they solving? How do they differ from their competitors? What do their sales look like right now? For us at Traction, we are only taking companies that are generating revenue. So for companies that are still in that very early development phase, we do kind of want to see a path of when they expect to start making revenue. So we could potentially take that conversation later. But yeah, just a breakdown of sales. Where are they selling to? I can send you a whole list of what there typically is too, but that's off the top of my head. It's really just how are they different than everybody else and why should we invest in them? That's the main thing. But also it's good to know how much people are raising and what exactly they'll use those funds for. So if they're raising $1 million, but it's just going to go to somebody's salary, then that's very different than if they're raising $500,000 to get a better manufacturer and increase inventory. That's really big for us to understand where our money is actually going to be fed into.
Yeah, you bet. And then what kind of time horizon do you look
for? How far along they are or how long?
Sorry, for who you're looking to invest in. Like, do you look for companies where you're going to earn a certain amount within a certain time range, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, so we typically hold on to a company for 3 to 7 years. So it can be a little bit longer than other VCs. Right now, we're like a 5-year-old fund. We did our first investment later in 21. So it's 4 years since the first investment. We've had 1 exit so far. So we'll hold on to them a little bit longer. But we're not looking for companies that are like unicorn companies. So kind of looking for the modest exit. So 10 to 50 million. So just helping founders who want to grow their business, but maybe aren't looking to have a really high pressure. You need to grow this to $1 billion in 3 years. So a little bit different, works better kind of for the Minnesota landscape as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think we've seen some of those sky high valuations that were in the pre-pandemic times for cannabis didn't pan out because it's not a software as a service that can scale. It's a plant that we have to buy and through.
Yeah. But I will happily send you a list of everything after this call too. I can send you what we look for. I know Luke has a question in the chat, but then I will talk about your accelerator later too.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Justina. I'm just so glad that you're here. It was really fun to meet you at Shalisa's event a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, so let's talk about the next steps for low potency hemp businesses. Yeah, Luke, that's a great question. And Justina, it seems like maybe that's pertinent to what you're thinking about as well. So Minnesota, I said, has regulated low potency hemp, which I also call hemp-derived THC. Those I'm using those terms synonymously, just to avoid confusion, since 2022, but has not done it so far through a licensing regime. It's just been a registration regime. People needed to follow testing, labeling, packaging requirements, or else they were not allowed to sell them. OCM has started a inspection regime back in 23. And so now that registration is being formalized into licensing for the low potency hemp market. Minnesota wanted to get the adult use licensing started first, and then now we'll be returning to the hemp businesses, and they'll be going through licensing in the fall. It's going to be much less burdensome than the adult use licensing was. It's not a limited license situation. It's not a lottery situation. Instead, it's a paperwork situation where, low potency hemp retailers and manufacturers are going to need to submit paperwork in an application window in October in order to apply for full licensure. One of the issues that had been pointed out, and so changes were made by the Minnesota legislature in this last session, was that there are a lot of low potency folks who are wholesaling. Either they're solely wholesaling or they're also manufacturing or retailing and wholesaling. And the way that the bill last year had been written said that if you were going to wholesale, then you had to have a cannabis wholesale license and apply in that adult use process. And people pointed out that was odd and burdensome. And so the Minnesota legislature, after lobbying, did create a low potency hemp wholesaler license that people can apply for as well. Okay, so there's the 3 different licenses: retail, manufacturer, and wholesale. And I believe that they can be held together. They just have, additional, like, separate fees and so forth. The wholesale is a $10,000 application fee, which of course will tilt the market towards the larger players. We've seen some of our large alcohol players be really interested in being in this wholesale space. Of course, and manufacturing and retail. So this will allow them to do that without having to mess with the adult use market, which they were not excited to do. Let's see. So another category of folks in Minnesota are people that are doing low potency now, but are hoping to transition into adult use. So the other point I wanted to make about that is that people that want to do that should have already applied for adult use licenses and are working towards getting those licenses completed and up and running. Once they do, they will also be able to sell the low potency hemp stuff again. So we look at but I think it's going to be a bit of a complicated process, threading between one license type and the other. I do think, though, that our Office of Cannabis Management is, it wants to help people figure out how to do that in a compliant fashion. And so it's just going to be something where people are going to need to have good regulatory advice as they go forward. Does that help, Luke? Or did you have certain points that you wanted me to address on that? You said bars and restaurants. Okay, so bars and restaurants, of course, are going to just need that low potency edible retailer license. And so they should plan to put in an application in about October, so that they are allowed to keep selling those hemp-derived drinks and edibles. And I hope that they will. I really think Minnesota is very special in that we can go to most bars and many restaurants. I can order one of my favorite, 5 milligram THC seltzers, and my date can get a whiskey and soda, and it's not a problem, right? Most places in the US, you can only consume cannabis in places where you cannot consume alcohol, and vice versa. But Minnesota has done it with our low potency drinks, and it has become normalized here in a way that I think is beautiful and consumer friendly. There's certainly a lot of people doing the Cali sober thing, where they're doing just cannabis, no alcohol. I have a lot of friends who are telling me they feel a lot better. Thanks for the question, Luke. Appreciate it. Yeah, Justina.
Can you tell us more about your accelerator program and exactly what kind of companies you're looking for to be a part of that?
Yeah, you got it. Thank you. So I'm so excited about the response that I've had so far. I only launched the accelerator about 2 weeks ago, and I already have 12 members. I want members who are all small companies. Some of them have experience in other markets or are coming from the hemp-derived market. They're not newbies necessarily, but they need support and regulatory assistance, making sure that we set up compliant Minnesota adult use businesses. I think the accelerator is an especially powerful idea because this market is so fragmented. Each player in the Minnesota market, whether they're a small vertically integrated license or they're a larger not vertically integrated license, needs each other, right? Needs each other as important business counterparts, as well as being able to make mistakes and then learn from each other's mistakes. And so the accelerator is a way that helps them find those valuable business relationships. It is my hope that the very first person who is allowed to sell adult use flower in Minnesota will be a member of my accelerator. And the very first person who has adult use flower that is allowed to be sold in Minnesota is a member of the accelerator, right? So we can find each other and work together in ways that do work under our statute. I also, so to you, Justina, hope that the accelerator will help us find funding is just so hard in this industry. And so one of the things that I hope to do is have the accelerator be somewhat of a mark of quality, right? This company has gone through, these corporate steps, and I feel I can help explain that they don't have any kind of weird agreement on their books with some shady investor, right? As some companies do. I'm a corporate and securities lawyer by training, by the way. So like cap tables and equity raises are my jam.
Love it. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. I also hope to help them get access to the grant funding. Minnesota put aside or set up several programs to distribute significant amounts of money to small businesses in the cannabis space when we first legalized, again, as a way to try to make sure that small players could get a foothold in this market. Those funds have not come online yet, but it's going to be soon. And so I think that it will be helpful that I'm able to get the companies in the accelerator quality information about what grants are available, how to apply for those grants, and help them, make viable application. Yeah, I would love, I just throw this out there. Do you mind? I think the accelerator really lends itself well to actually being some sort of fund investment, like as a whole, right? Because the chances of any one company making it in this crazy industry, whatever, okay? But an investor can diversify their exposure to the industry by investing in a portfolio of companies. And I wonder if the accelerator might even be a way to backdoor into that.
Yeah, that would be great. We're really missing that in Minnesota, but in the Midwest as a whole. So awesome.
Yeah. What would you like to see? What would make you excited to continue this conversation?
Yeah, I'm just excited in general. I think this is I keep telling all of my bosses, like, this is such a great space that we need to look into because it is changing so much, but that, like you said, could have a very high upside, could have a downside. Nobody knows, but do you really know with any company right now? I don't think so, just because there's so much changes in the tech space. So I'm excited about it. I think we've got a large investor base, but we have also an older investor base that I think is very biased on the industry. So we're really just trying to find the ins and outs and be a lot more well-versed, I guess, just so we can communicate it to them a lot better. So this has been super helpful, but we're looking at a hemp-derived company, and it's been going really well. They are also amazing and have done their fair share of legal work, and they're doing a great job. So I think that eases our transition into it. But yeah, I'm excited. I meet regularly with a lot of the analysts at the other funds, and we all just want to convince our bosses to look into it more. So I'm excited. I think your program's going to be great for us to turn to.
Terrific. Yes. Well, please let me know any questions that you have about the Minnesota market or the cannabis market federally in general.
Yeah.
You asked some questions about where we're going federally that I could spend some more time on if you want to.
Yeah.
By the way, do you get my newsletter? I write a newsletter about and for the Minnesota craft cannabis industry.
I don't think I do. Is it on your website?
It is. Yeah. There's a subscribe here link, North Star Consulting.
Wonderful. I will go subscribe to that.
Terrific. Thank you. Yeah. That's been a labor of love. It started as a way to help entrepreneurs all keep up to date with, was it time to apply yet? Or what is going on, right?
Yeah.
Since it did take 2 years from when we legalized to actually getting to market open. But it's turned into a way to keep a lot of people up to date on what's going on with the law as well as the market. My hope is that as things start to open, then I'll be able to, profile businesses as they open and otherwise help people, avoid traps.
Yeah, wonderful. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for running this, Jen. It was wonderful to learn more.
Thank you so much for dialing in. I appreciate it, Justina. Awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you as well. Have a good one.
Thank you too. All right. Well, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and close the Ask Me Anything. This has been so much fun. Thanks everybody for joining.